Are you tired of doing the same old techniques in your quilts and you want to learn something different? Well, today I'm going to teach you how with some artwork and some good old crayons. Who knew that you could use crayons in your quilts? Hello and welcome. I am Jackie with Jackie Russell Creates, where I give you tips, tricks, and techniques for your quilting projects, whether they are big or they are small. Today's video is a collaboration video, and I want to personally thank Indy Annie Jones for hosting it. You'll be able to find her link and the playlist of all the other wonderful creators in the description below. And the theme for this video is called Hocus Pocus. We need to do something that has to do with a witch or part of the movie. So we're just going to do a simple project with the legs. I'm going to use mine as a finished quilt with different pieces, but I'm going to show you how to make this into a quilt project. You can frame it, you can finish it however you prefer to finish it. If you're ready, hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up button, and let's get started on this project using some crayons. So the first thing that you want to do is get a piece of fabric bigger than your artwork so you have plenty of room, and you want to make sure that you have it ironed. You can use a light box, you can put it in a window, but I can be able to see mine through here just fine. So what you're going to do is you're going to take, whether it's a friction pin or a water soluble pin, and you're just going to trace your design. Now you also may have a Cricut machine or some other machine that, or even just a printer that you can be able to put your fabric on a wax paper and print it right onto your fabric. That's an option as well. But because mine is going to be a little bigger than standard size printer paper, I opted to do by tracing. You could do this like with your kids' artwork. That could be fun. You can make this as a mug rug. And you want to use a friction pin that erases with heat, or a water soluble that comes out with water, just so you don't see your trace lines in the finished product. Now that's another thing you have to think about is if you're printing it off either with your cutting machine like your Cricut, or if you're printing it just on a regular printing machine, do you want those black lines to stay in your finished product? Some of the advantages is those, by printing it, it won't disappear or fade away depending on how long it takes you to do your project. One of the tips with the water or the friction pin is that if it gets too cold, it will come back. And yes, we're going to be covering these up with some stitching, embroidery, but it still may be scene. You can use any free artwork you find online. You can create your own artwork. Your children can create your artwork for you. You can, if you have a coloring book, you can use a page out of there to create these as well. You can make them any size you would like. You can make them into a table runner, a mug rug, enlarge them and make them into a wall hanging, add multiple images into one, and make a quilt, a full-size quilt. So we have our design all traced out. And what you can do is just tape it down to your table and start coloring. I actually found if you take some sandpaper, this is just 320 fine, and you put it underneath, that's gonna hold your fabric and it's gonna keep it from stretching and moving around as we color. So you're gonna first take your white crayon and you're gonna kind of cover your whole design. It don't have to be perfect, but you kind of want to cover it, and that's going to help the rest of the color stick, and it gives it something to adhere to. So we're just roughly. Now, if you want to, I can't say lighter colors because you can keep going over. You can always, you can skip this part and not add your white on the bottom. It is an optional step, but it's one that I like to do to kind of help make sure I'm getting a strong color, I guess. And you can see, because I have this sandpaper on the bottom, it is actually keeping my fabric from moving around. And so now we're going to just color. Let's see. If we use, I'm going to use a couple colors of brown. So you'll just color in just like normal. And I'm just lightly touching the crayon to the fabric. And now if you want to come in and do some highlighting and some shadowing to give some dimension around the edge, you can, do that. You can tell I'm an artist. I like to use my fingers, so I'm just kind of blending them in a little bit there. I'm going to use Granny Smith apple on her legs. The nice thing with the next step is if you actually got outside the lines, it's no big deal because you're going to color that in with DMC floss. So say I want these darker, I just keep going over and over again. And you can see how much darker that yellow is compared to the green leggings or the broom. I think I'm going to go over the legs one more time. So while I'm finishing up this, coloring this picture, comment below and let me know what your favorite part of Hocus Pocus video is, if you've seen it. If not, I recommend that you go watch it. It is a great show, and the new one is getting ready to come out. Now this does eat away at your crayons. It gives such a cool effect. So there we have it all colored. Now we're ready to go on to the next step, which is outlining it. You can use your sewing machine and free motion around if you'd like, or you can do some embroidery, and that's what I'm going to do. So I take my hoop, and then I'm just going to pick out some DMC floss that kind of matches the colors that I have in my design, and that's what we're going to use to outline. So I use 2 strands. So to pull your strands apart, it comes with 6 strands in one. You grab one and you just pull it out and grab the other one. Set those ones aside, and then you're going to thread your needle using these, and I'm just using an embroidery needle. And I like to tie a knot in the back. They recommend that you don't, but I tie a little knot to hold it. And now we're just going to do a straight stitch around the whole design in your coordinating color. So you come up, you'll take a little stitch about 1/4 of an inch or so, come back up, you're going to go down that same spot, and then you're going to come back up. So it's like a back stitch. And you're going to trace all your lines that you drew on with either the water soluble pen or your friction pen. And that's going to give you the outline of your design. Now, if you want it to look like a coloring book page, you can use black on all of it. If you print it out on your printer and you have the black ink and you stay per se within the lines, you could be finished and just frame it just like this. Well, almost. So I'm going to finish this up, but before I finish outlining, there's one more step that you have to do, and that is you have to set the crayon into the fabric. So you have your whole picture colored and outlined. You're going to take some parchment paper and you're going to lay on top of it, and all that's doing is protecting your iron. You want to make sure you have no steam, and you're just going to iron and set that crayon into your fabric. So you just want to press it for a few seconds in each spot, and that's going to set it into your fabric. And the reason you want to set it with parchment so you don't get it on your iron, you don't get it on your clothing. And now you're ready to frame it, to quilt it, or whatever you want to do with it. So here is our finished, but there is that project. Now that we have the broom and we have the legs, now we need to make a hat. So for this project, I made a little hat template. You're going to need a fat quarter. I'm going to use some 505 spray just to temporarily hold this until I get it all quilted. Then you're going to need 2 little pieces. These are just scraps. They're 1 inch by 3.5 inches. That's going to be our hat bed. You don't have to put it on. Now you're going to trace your hat onto your fabric. I'm using a friction pen, but you want to make sure that you leave enough space around the edge. Once I get this traced on, I'm doing 2 out of this fabric. So I have it traced on once, and I'm going to flip it over and trace it again. Like I said, make sure you leave enough space for cutting. Okay, I'm going to take the 505 again, and I'm just going to spray down the strip, and I'm going to place it on my hat down around the brim. We're going to need a hanger for our hats, for our garland. You need a piece of fabric that is 3 inches wide by the length of your fabric, which should be with the fabric, which is 42 inches. If you want a longer one, you can make it longer and just sew the ends together. Then you want to fold the ends in about a 1/2 inch, and I press them. Then I folded it in half and pressed that so I had a seam. Then I folded each corner or each edge in just to that center piece, and then you'll fold it over and give it another good pressing so you have your ribbon for our hats. Now it's time to sew these together. We're just going to do a straight stitch around the hat, and then to attach the brim down, I'm just doing a blanket stitch. Now you just want to cut off all your ends. Now that we have it sewn and stitched, now we need to cut them out. I'm just using my pinking shears, and I'm going about a 1/4 inch by that line that we just sewn. You can use any decorative scissors that you have. We're going to take our ribbon, and you're just going to place them along the edge. Then you're going to fold it over and you're going to pin, and then we're going to stitch and attach them down. So what you want to do is you want to stitch about 1/8 of an inch along this open edge, and then you'll come back around and hit up there. So I'm going to finish these, and then I will be back and show you them up close.